Welcome to Friday Friends, RI Elder Info's weekly look at the organizations and individuals providing resources for Rhode Island seniors, caregivers, and professionals.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. It is 9 o'clock on Friday, the very first Friday in June of what is going to be the beginning of a fabulous summer for all of us, right? So I am Deb Burton, Executive Director of RI Elder Info, the nonprofit that brings you Friday Friends every Friday. And we talk about information and resources that you or someone you know needs to know about. So hit the like button, hit the comment button, share, all those things for social media. Because what we're talking about this entire month of June is something that statistically somebody you know or yourself is going to encounter. And this month we are going to be talking about elder abuse and its effects and the resources available out there, because there is hope and there is help. So please hit the like button, the share button, because we want to make sure that if there's somebody in need for this information, that they have access to it. Super important. Now, you know, as a nonprofit, we can't do this without the support of our sponsors. So a huge thank you to Point 32 Health and to Aetna, to United Health, and to Oak Street Healthcare, as well as England Studios and JD Solutions. And of course, behind the scenes, making this look good is 321 Media. So big thank you. I would not be able to bring out this show and host this show if it were not for the support of our sponsors. So eternally grateful. And imagine all the people that are being helped by you watching this and sharing this information out. So today I would like to invite up Cheryl Patneaud for the Haven for Elder Justice. Hi, Sha, how are you?
Good morning. I'm great. How are you?
Awesome.
Great.
So I have you on, I think this might be the third year in a row for World Elder Abuse Awareness. I know it's usually day on June 15th, but we like to but we like to raise awareness the whole month long. So for people who might have missed previous year's episodes or they want updated information, can you share what is the Haven for Elder Justice?
Absolutely. And I really appreciate you having myself on today for such an important topic. And I really want to, again, emphasize what you said in your introduction, Deb, which is that, chances are that one of you who is watching this show either is a victim or someone who may be a victim of elder abuse. So this is a super important topic, and we'll give you ways to receive help or assistance. So the Haven for Elder Justice, we have been in existence for approximately 9 years. We provide shelter to older victims of abuse. Older is defined in Rhode Island by the state as age 60 and over. And believe it or not, we are only one of approximately 20 shelters across the country. So very, very underserved population. So, excuse me, in addition to providing shelter, if someone chooses to leave their abusive situation, and we have to keep in mind that not all people choose to leave for very legitimate reasons, then the first thing that we do is look within our own community, which is St. Elizabeth community. So we have nursing homes, we have assisted living programs. So we look to see if we have an available bed. If so, the person comes into that shelter bed. They come in sometimes under an assumed name for protective reasons. And the only people who know why the elder is there are the people who need to know. So not everybody in the assisted living or the nursing home knows who the client is and why they're there. And so we provide short-term shelter up to 30 to 60 days. And then as soon as someone comes into shelter, I meet with them within 24 hours and start to look at where they'll go on a permanent basis. And then, in addition to providing shelter, I also provide legal advocacy. And what that means is that if someone is looking to obtain a restraining order, which is an order where the court says that the abuser cannot come near that person, I help them to do that. Some people choose to file for divorce if they're in a married setting. Some people need a no trespass order. I also provide tremendous amount of support and resources so that the person doesn't ever have the feeling that they're alone in trying to navigate a very, very complicated system.
And I have to say, you are very kind and compassionate. And when somebody needs you to be fierce, you are fierce. So
Thank you.
what makes the shelter system? You had mentioned that Rhode Island is only one of 20. What makes the shelter system different, or the needs for shelter systems different for older adults, individuals over 60, than, say, a younger abuse survivor?
Mm-hmm. So what we've found with older adults is that with the more traditional shelters for victims of domestic violence, which provide tremendous services, but what we find is that for older adults, it's not generally a good match, in that when someone is in a traditional shelter for victims of abuse, they're required to do chores, help upkeep the shelter. They have to be, sometimes looking for employment. There are typically women and children, sometimes young children, all the way up to 16 or 18 years old. Oftentimes you have to share a bedroom. We find that many of the shelters in Rhode Island have bedrooms that are on the second floor. And for some elders, accessibility and mobility is a challenge. So it's not so much that, they're not a good place for our folks to be, but it's not the best match. And what we're always looking for is, what's the best match? How can we best meet the needs of this elder? And so if someone has mobility issues, they're not going to be able to get to a second floor bedroom or necessarily do chores. So we rely on those shelters for other services like support groups and maybe housing resources.
And I think that that's really important, that folks realize that older adults may face different challenges. And St. Elizabeth's Haven for Elder Justice partners with some of the traditional programs as well. So you mentioned the court system. How involved are you able to provide help to people? Because I think sometimes if you need to get a restraining order, it might be a little scary and folks might worry, what if I write the paperwork out wrong? Those kinds of things. How much help are you able to provide for that?
So my assistance with folks who are looking for example, a restraining order, which is a legal protective order, my involvement begins with transportation. So typically what I do is I'll go to, for example, if the person is in shelter, I go to our shelter setting, and I usually use a transportation system like Uber or Lyft. We ride together to the courthouse. If someone is still living at home but needs a protective order, then I generally will have them go to a safe place, and then I'll Uber there and pick them up. So it starts really right with transportation. So we're in the car together, we're going to court together. I assist them, and prior to going to court, prepare them for what to expect. All the way up to when we go into the courthouse, the first thing you're going to do is go through security. Sometimes the security beep might go off because maybe you have suspenders on, for example. So I start at the very, very beginning. As soon as we walk through the door, here's what to expect, and then every step of the way. So, excuse me. So they understand that I'm with them from start to finish. I assist in filling out the paperwork for the restraining order. And so they don't have to worry about putting the wrong thing or what should I say or what shouldn't I say. I assist with that. And then I actually submit the paperwork to the clerk of the court in order for that restraining order application to go before the judge. If the client has to go before the judge, which very, very seldom happens, then I'm in the courtroom with the client. And then I wait for the paperwork to come back, which is usually an hour, hour and a half wait. So sometimes we'll go out and get a coffee. But I try very much to just focus on everyday things and not focus on, so much why we're there, unless the person needs support right in that moment. But, I feel like I'm blessed in my job in that I get to know all of the people I work with as the persons that they are. And so they're a person, they're a Deb, they're a Cheryl, they're a Mary, they're a John. They're not a victim. That's not their identity. That's something they've experienced. So I'm with them every step of the way through the legal system. If they're in court, I'm sitting next to them in court. And they always know what to expect.
I think that can be extraordinarily helpful to know that there's someone by your side who maybe is even literally holding your hand so that it makes the process less scary.
Mm-hmm.
Is there certain risk factors that our older adults may have for becoming victims of elder abuse?
Absolutely. So some of the risk factors that we find include financial exploitation, which is probably one of the highest crimes that we see happen with older adults. And that can mean being a victim of a scam, a telephone call that you get where you're scammed and you don't realize it. It can also be you have some difficulty managing your finances. So, for example, you have difficulty or some challenges balancing your checkbook. So you put someone's name on your checking account and you put that person's name because, of course, you know them and you trust them. And what some people don't realize is that once you have someone else's name on your account, that other person has as much access to your money as you do. So unfortunately, what we find sometimes is that someone may put a family member, for example, that they trust on their account. And then that family member starts to withdraw money. Or maybe the elder needs their prescription picked up at the local pharmacy. And so they ask the person, to pick up their prescription. And here's my debit card. And here's my PIN number. And so now the person has access to debit card and PIN. And then sometimes what we see are purchases that aren't really a purchase that the older adult may make. For example, membership to a gym or purchases at a store that serves only young adults. And so what happens is that people trust the people that they identify to help them, but sometimes those are the people that take advantage of the elder. And so as we age, our risk for abuse increases. A lot of physical abuse that we see involves people who have sometimes cognitive challenges or short patience. And so they may become physically or verbally abusive to the older adult. We see psychological abuse where people may be called names or bullied. And so the types of abuse really are far reaching. But as we age, we absolutely become more at risk for abuse. And typically, people who abuse elders are people that the elder knows, loves, trusts, or it may be from a caregiver, from an outside person, for example, who's hired to provide care. They come in, they help with preparation of meals or prevention of medication. And sometimes we see abuse happen with paid caregivers as well.
And so what should people do? Because I think that, in neighbors, maybe you're in a high rise and you know that the first of the month when the checks come in, your neighbor's kid shows up and takes them out to dinner, and your neighbor's so excited to see their kid
Yeah.
because they're just such a wonderful kid, and yeah, they're a little behind in their cell phone bill, so your neighbor had to give them some money.
Mhm.
And end of the month comes, and now your neighbor needs a ride to the food pantry. And they're really excited because the first of the month is coming and they're going to get to see their kid again. So when you're that neighbor and you're like, something's not quite right,
Mhm.
what should the neighbor do?
Well, I think one of the important things is for older adults to recognize that anybody can be a victim, and that it's never ever your fault. Never ever your fault. The fault always lies on the person who is taking advantage of you. So in Rhode Island, there is a mandatory reporting law for elder abuse, just like there is a mandatory reporting law for child abuse. So in Rhode Island, we have laws in place to protect older adults. And what that law requires is that we, all of us, anyone living in Rhode Island, excuse me, if we have reason to believe or suspect that an elder is being taken advantage of or is being abused, or we just have concerns about the fact that maybe we see that they're short of food all of the time, or maybe they're asking to borrow money, or maybe they're not able to get out to, their physician. Um, you know, everything that we are concerned about as reasonable adults can be reported. And the Office of Healthy Aging in Rhode Island, which some people may remember as the Department of Elderly Affairs, but it's now called the Office of Healthy Aging, is the mandated entity in which we report. So if I, as a reasonable person, I don't have to know for certain that the elder is being abused, I just have to have a concern, a suspicion, um, then I'm required to call or report online to the Office of Healthy Aging. The person is not going to find out who called or who reported the case, but it is our responsibility to keep everyone in our culture, everyone in our society safe. And typically you don't find out what happens, but oftentimes services are able to be put in place or investigations are able to be initiated, and that's a way of protecting the elder that they may not have known themselves.
And Shad, that number to call for the Office of Healthy Aging, that's the 401-462-0555 number, correct?
Yes, correct. And so what happens is when you call that number, you'll get an answering machine. And so basically, what you'll do is just leave your name, your number, that you have concerns about an older adult. And then the intake person will call you back and will gather information from you. And if you don't have all of the information that they're asking for, that's okay. Sometimes that makes people really nervous, but it's okay. As long as the person's name, where they live, that's pretty much all we need, and what the concern is. They may ask additional questions you may not know the answer to, and you can just say, I don't know the answer to that. You can also report online. But if people don't have access to a computer, the 4620555 number is the one to call. If you do have access to a computer, then if you just Google Office of Healthy Aging, Rhode Island, that will bring you right to their website. And on the first page of that website is a big square that says report elder abuse.
Yep, and I will put a link to that in the comments
Great.
as soon as we're finished, to make sure that people have access to that. So if again, a lot of times we see things and we're not too sure. If we think that there's a neighbor who's maybe really struggling to take care of themselves, maybe they're just not physically able to maintain their house or to get into the shower or to get out to get their medication. Is that something that ought to be called in? And is that something that the Haven for Elder Justice might be able to provide some help with?
Sure. So if I got a call around, those concerns, then I would take some basic information about the person that is of concern, and then I would be able to call other resources, other community contacts that I work with, because I certainly don't work in isolation. We're lucky in Rhode Island in that we're small. And we have many, many community partners and very strong relationships with our community partners. So if someone were to call, I'm able to explain to them what the resources are. I can give the person a call and let them know what the resources are. If a call goes into Office of Healthy Aging, that really isn't of concern around protection issues, but more the person needs some assistance in their apartment, for example, or their home, then Office of Healthy Aging will refer to the community action programs in Rhode Island. And each community action program, West Bay Community Action, Tri-County Community Action, East Bay Community Action, for example, all of those community action agencies have elder care departments. And so they provide what we call case management to the person who's in need, and they make sure that all of the resources are put in place.
That is awesome. It's good because many hands make the load light, and a lot of times abuse is not something, even though for the victim it may be happening in isolation, there are often many resources available and a lot of different partners. So is the only way someone can be referred to the Haven for Elder Justice through the Office of Healthy Aging, or if they present at the emergency room, can they be referred to you or other organizations?
Absolutely. And anyone is able to call me, a potential client, a neighbor, anyone can call me. And if it's not something that's, in the realm in which I work, then I'll call a community partner to assist. But in terms of our shelter referrals or our community advocacy referrals, typically our referrals for shelter come from the Office of Healthy Aging because they are the mandated, that's where all of the mandated reporting calls go to. So typically my referrals come from the Office of Healthy Aging. And the Office of Healthy Aging, initially, when they get a call, sends an investigator out to the house. That sounds kind of intimidating, an investigator, but it's really a super nice person who goes out, introduces themselves, and says, hey, somebody, was concerned about, and then expresses whatever the concern might be. How can I help you? What can I do to make life better for you? And they'll provide the resources. If they're in need of shelter, then the investigator will call me, and together the investigator and I will work toward identifying a shelter bed for the client. And as I said, once the client comes into shelter, which has to be something they agree to do, I'm with them 24 hours later, and I'm with them all the way through. I have some clients I've been here at the Haven for almost 7 years, and I have some clients that I've been working with for the entire time I've been here. They may not be in a dangerous situation. They may, many of them have gone through it and come out on the other side, but I still maintain the relationship with them. And I'm always, one phone call away if they need anything. But sometimes people just need a little support, a little outreach call to say, hey, I'm here, I'm thinking about you. How are you doing? Is there anything that you need?
And is it similar to domestic violence in younger persons that getting help may take a few tries on the victim side before they are able to get out?
Absolutely. Absolutely. What statistics tell us is that on average, a victim of domestic violence may leave up to 7 times before they make that final break. And that is totally understandable. And when you think about it, for victims of abuse who need to leave their home, their apartment, to go into shelter, there's a lot that you lose. First of all, you lose your home. You don't take all of your belongings with you. Many people have to leave their pets behind, or they may not be able to access their faith-based community. So it's, it's many times victims will say, well, where's the justice? Why do I have to leave and he gets to stay in the home? And I totally get that. And they're right. And there's no easy answer for that. But the dynamics are often the same around leaving because the victim has to give up so much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But I think with St. Elizabeth's Haven for Elder Justice, to have you at someone's side, whether that be an older male or woman, victims can be either gender.
Oh, absolutely.
I think that's really important for people to understand too, is that abuse happens to both genders.
Absolutely.
Now, there's a day coming up that is recognizing the impact of elder abuse worldwide. Do you want to speak a little bit about that?
Yes. So on June 15th, every June 15th, is World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. And so what happens is literally around the world, people take that day to pause and to think about elders who are victims of abuse, any type of abuse. And many communities, many organizations will do a specific event to really help people in the community recognize World Elder Abuse Awareness Day. So, for example, St. Elizabeth Haven, the program that I work in, every year we do a breakfast at the Crown Plaza. Last year we had about 150 people come, and those are people who are part of our network. And so we come together on June 15th. We have a sit-down breakfast, and what we do at Haven is we acknowledge our community partners. So every year we present what we call our Haven Hero Awards, and typically those awards are provided to people who have worked on difficult cases with us, who have really gone above and beyond to help victims come out on the other side. So this year we have, I think it's 16 heroes that we'll be recognizing. And those include police officers, prosecutors from the Attorney General's office, some administrators from nursing homes, people from Office of Healthy Aging, just a whole diverse population of heroes. And the important part for people to recognize is that none of us can do this alone, that we have to work together. But we participate in a monthly phone call with shelters across the country. And I was just on that phone call the other day, and it's really neat because what they do is they put up a map of the United States and then a world map, and they pinpoint who's doing what on World Elder Abuse Awareness Day on June 15th. So it's really very empowering and very encouraging to see that people in almost every state are doing something to bring that attention and that awareness.
Good. And, it's one of those things that if we work now to prevent it, to raise awareness for it, it may be something that we may need the resources of as we get older.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, Shat, the best number to reach you if people had questions or concerns is 401-244-5476, right?
Yes, that's my direct line in my office. It's confidential. I'm the only person who has access to my voicemails. If I'm not in the office, you can leave a confidential message, and I absolutely will call you back.
Okay. And do you usually have your traditional Monday through Friday office hours?
Yes, I work Monday through Thursday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. And on Fridays, I work 8 a.m. to 3:30 p.m.
Okay.
Yes.
And if the only time someone is safe to meet with you outside of those hours, is that possible?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know, the focus is really on what's best for the older adult. And I will do whatever works for them. It's really about protecting older adults.
Cheryl, I'm really grateful that you were able to come on and share this information. I feel like it's something that needs to be shouted from the mountaintops,
Yes.
because the work that you're doing and the work that St. Elizabeth's Haven for Elder Justice is doing is a godsend to so many.
Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much.
I really appreciate the time, Deb, and I appreciate all of the work you do.
Thank you.
Thanks kindly.
So, folks, elder abuse is on the increase, whether that be related to the increased population that is aging, whether that be due to substance use disorders or mental health issues or cognitive issues. Elder abuse is increasing, and it is imperative for you and I and all of us to work together to raise awareness about it. We're dedicating the entire month of June, all of our Friday friends, to different resources. Some really creative things are happening in the Ocean State to help our older adults remain safe. And remember, this is something that can impact one day you and I. So the work we do today can make the world a better place for our own future, as well as the people who may be experiencing abuse right now. So I thank you very much for joining me this week. Hit the like button, hit the share button, because statistically there's somebody you know who needs this information sooner rather than later. I look forward to seeing you all again next week. In the meantime, be well and please be kind.
If you liked this video, please follow us on social media and subscribe on YouTube. For more information, visit rielderinfo.com or call 401-585-0509. If you have any questions, email deb@rielderinfo.com.